Down their businesses and buying back the block. And let's open our own business so we'll have some place to shop. Start investing in ourselves, is what we do, cause they do not. So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Every hustler that could hustle, start investing in your spot. Don't you see these vacant houses and you see these vacant lots? So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we buying back the block. My brothers buying back the block. Sisters buying back the block, my sisters buying back the block. Don't you see these vacant houses and you see these vacant lots? So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we buying back the block, my OGs buying back the block. Youngins buying back the block, my youngins buying back the block. Start investing in yourselves is what we do, cause they do not. So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. If we gon' get this cash and chop, this bullshit's got to stop. All this his beef, her beef, this and that, man, let's just get some guap. Dodging SWAT and got the digi, really, let's invest the stock. I suggest we cash some checks, it's really just a building block. See my circles talking cheese and bread and dough like pizza box. So let's get some cheese and bread and dough for our own pizza shop. And we never needin' your fast food when auntie making plates. Cause that's fish and fries, you get 2 sides of drink and slice of cake. The mechanic shop, the barber shop, the hair and nail salon. On the corner store or grocery store, let's get some season farm. Cause when summertime, when school let out, we started up a julep house. Then we passed it to the kids to show them what this bit is about. Used to grind the tubers out the Buick with the music clout. Now he with the wife and kids to show you what them Jews about. 10%, $100,000 is the stacks. So all you need is $10,000 to buy a house for 100 racks. Wait, all you need is $10,000 to buy a house for 100 racks? Yup, all you need is $10,000. Think of that with your income tax. Shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. And let's open our own business so we'll have some place to shop. Start investing in ourselves, is what we do, cause they do not. So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Every hustler that could hustle, start investing in your spot. Don't you see these vacant houses and you see these vacant lots? So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, if you getting money, stop buying back the neighborhood. Buy up these houses, these empty lots. Stop buying buildings, opening businesses. Stop buying land, property. You know what I'm saying? If you want to multiply your choppy, I don't care how you getting your bread. Shout out to my peoples up at Be Healthy. You know what I mean? Why we ain't got no black grocery stores?
DJ Nani Nan.
Hidden deep in the Amazon rainforest, if you know where to
Down their businesses and buying back the block. And let's open our own business so we'll have some place to shop. Start investing in ourselves, is what we do, cause they do not. So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Every hustler that could hustle, start investing in your spot. Don't you see these vacant houses and you see these vacant lots? So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we buying back the block. My brothers buying back the block. Sisters buying back the block, my sisters buying back the block. Don't you see these vacant houses and you see these vacant lots? So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we buying back the block, my OGs buying back the block. Youngins buying back the block, my youngins buying back the block. Start investing in yourselves is what we do, cause they do not. So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. If we gon' get this cash and chop, this bullshit's got to stop. All this his beef, her beef, this and that, man, let's just get some guap. Dodging SWAT and got the digi, really, let's invest the stock. I suggest we cash some checks, it's really just a building block. See my circles talking cheese and bread and dough like pizza box. So let's get some cheese and bread and dough for our own pizza shop. And we never needing your fast food when auntie making plates. Cause that's fish and fries, you get 2 sides of drink and slice of cake. The mechanic shop, the barber shop, the hair and nail salon. On the corner store or grocery store, let's get some season farm. Cause when summertime, when school let out, we started up a julep house. Then we passed it to the kids to show them what this bit is about. Used to grind the two was out the Buick with the music clout. Now he with the wife and kids to show you what them Jews about. 10%, $100,000 is just stacks. So all you need is $10,000 to buy a house for 100 racks. Wait, all you need is $10,000 to buy a house for 100 racks. Yup, all you need is $10,000. Think of that with your income tax. Shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. And let's open our own business so we'll have some place to shop. Start investing in ourselves, is what we do, cause they do not. So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Happy hustler that can hustle, start investing in your spot. Don't you see these vacant houses and you see these vacant lots? So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, if you getting money, stop buying back the neighborhood. Buy up these houses, these empty lots. Stop buying buildings, opening businesses. Stop buying land, property. You know what I'm saying? If you want to multiply your choppy, I don't care how you getting your bread. Shout out to my peoples up at Be Healthy. You know what I mean? Why we ain't got no black grocery stores?
DJ Nani Nan.
Hidden deep in the Amazon rainforest.
Since the beginning of time, civilizations have asked the questions. What is the human soul? How do we know it exists? Do we control our reality? Or are we actually living within a dream? What truly happens when we pass away? Join 2 of the world's leading experts in higher consciousness, and discover the truth about the soul, and the path to enlightenment. This is The Living Soul.
Welcome to The Living Soul. I'm Kathy Gibson.
And I'm Dr. Mitch Gibson, and we're so glad that you're back with us this week. This week we have a challenging topic that we're going to talk about from a spiritual perspective, and that is human hunger.
Human hunger is probably one of the most painful things for people to actually go through and for us to have to watch, because most people, the hardest thing to watch is a small child that's hungry, that doesn't have any food. The parents don't have any money to give them any food. The parents are not eating. It just is a cycle of, I guess, need that a person or family has when they don't have enough money to eat. And in the United States, we throw away so much food, and there's so much hunger right here in the United States. We're going throughout this show to post some statistics that are going to be running on the bottom of your screen that talks about the statistics of hunger and how horrible it is around the world and also in the United States.
You know, in countries that are not developed, hunger is much more prevalent. And you see people actually dying of hunger, babies dying of hunger and malnutrition. And so we're going to talk about it from a human and spiritual perspective. It's not just a political problem. It's not just a medical problem. It is part of the human condition that I think as we evolve as people, we can begin to discuss this and try to find solutions.
One of the most frustrating things to watch and to know is that we produce enough food to feed everybody in the world, and yet a great portion of the world is starving. Why is that? Why do you think that we can produce enough to feed everybody, but we choose not to? In fact, most companies can't help a lot of people here in the United States because of people suing them if they get sick. And because of the litigious nature of human beings, a lot of corporations just choose not to help at all. And they end up throwing that food away.
Well, we spend more money in the United States on military needs and guns and bombs and planes than we spend on food and
Mhm.
helping people. And if we took our budget for the military and just spread it around the world, we could stop world hunger tomorrow.
We could.
We could do that. And each of us has an experience with hunger because you can't live in a country, even like the US, and not see the face of hunger. You can't drive or walk in a big city or a small city for that matter, like our city, Greensboro, and would not see people holding up signs,
Mhm.
signs for food, signs for a job, signs just for people to just to be able to help them. And they do this because they feel almost a need
Mhm.
to ask for help. Now, if
Mhm.
a grown adult is not able to work for whatever reason and is asking for help, that person is going to feel shame. They're going to feel sadness. They're going to feel the intense need to get help from the system.
Mhm.
Now, we have systems in place in our country that essentially address that problem. We have the food stamp system, we have food pantries, we have food ministries. We have people, good people in every neighborhood that will give you a plate of food
Mhm.
if you just knock on their door. And yet, people die of hunger all over the world and in our country every day. Die of hunger. Now, I'm a medical doctor. I right now we make a good living. We have a good life. But I grew up hungry.
Mhm.
I know what hunger is like. I grew up at times praying for a sandwich so that my brothers and sisters and I would have something to eat. Do you know what it's like to pray for a sandwich from need? Not just because you want a hoagie or you're walking down the street and say, Lord, I wish I would have a chili cheesesteak with onion and extra cheese. It's not that kind of prayer. And there are millions, actually billions of people in the world right now who are undernourished, making that same prayer, understanding that tomorrow isn't promised. They have children that they're trying to feed, and they have to look at that child and say, we have nothing. Not bread, not rice, not water, nothing. And that child is going to go to bed hungry. That is one of the worst aspects of suffering that a person can go through. I can tell you from my own experience, I can tell you from working as a doctor, I have seen people starve to death.
Mhm.
When they come into the hospital, they are so far gone in their starvation, there's nothing we can do for them medically. And they just die of kidney failure, heart failure, liver failure, all which are sequelae, consequences of starvation. So that the face of that still affects our country.
Mhm. There is a look that a person has when they're hungry, and you can see it, you can feel it, and you can see it through their bodies, you can see it through their eyes. And although it's one of those situations where a person has a lot of shame that comes when they're hungry and they don't want to ask you for help, but you can see that they need the help, that it's become such a great problem that the schools actually save a lot of kids from hunger because when they get to school, there's programs in place where they can get free breakfast and they can get free lunch. And sometimes those are the only meals that those children will get in that day. And there's also programs where they will give you something that you can take home over the weekends, a care package that kids can take home so that they have something to eat. So it's a big problem. There are some things in place to help with that, but without those things in place, many, many hundreds and maybe even millions of children would just starve because there just isn't any food. A lot of people make fun of McDonald's, but McDonald's makes it possible for parents to be able to feed their children on a small budget. They feed about 1% of the world's population every single day because of their prices.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about what is our spiritual responsibility to take care of people around us who are hungry. What should we be doing? We'll be right back. So, what is our spiritual responsibility to help when we see someone on the side of the street starving, begging for food, begging for money? And questions go through your mind, and just human questions.
Mhm.
Are they asking for money because they're drunk or high or want to get drugs? Or are they really hungry? And what is our personal responsibility to help? Should you help somebody when you have a suspicion that they're just begging because they want to go out and take that $10 or $5 you give them, or that dollar you give them, put it in a kitty and go get some cocaine or go get a bottle of liquor, or go do heroin or something? And so we have to wrestle with those real questions.
Mhm.
What is our responsibility to help? Do we have a responsibility to help?
I believe that we do have a responsibility to help, and there are many people who have taken full advantage of people who are compassionate, that like to give and help, by being hustlers on the street, by not wanting to work and just asking for things so that they can, continue their drug habit or alcoholism. But if you take the time to look at the person in their eyes and just look at their eyes and see if you feel instinctively that they're telling you the truth, that they actually need help.
Hunger has a look.
It does have a look.
Hunger has a look. When somebody's hungry, you look in their eyes, you're going to see hunger.
You will
You
see
know,
hunger.
look at that demon in the eye and know that it is there.
You're not going to mistake it for a drug addiction or alcoholism. There's a look of hunger. And if you know what that look is, then you'll know whether or not you should help that person. I remember us going into grocery stores, and we do this quite often. It's just something we like to do. And we would always see a lot of elderly people walking around the grocery store with maybe one or two items in their cart, and they will go up and down all the aisles, and we would pass them as we're getting groceries and see that they still not putting anything in their basket. And we found that you have to approach a person in a manner where they don't feel like you're threatening them or that you're judging them, if you want to help them. And I generally just say, God has put it on my heart to help you. So if you would allow me to get your groceries today, you would be doing me a great favor. And hopefully, this will be able to help you and your family. And we saw that as a great way service for us to be able to provide them with the groceries that they need. And we kept doing it so often that it was one of the main reasons why we decided to start the Tybro Foundation, because our uh, main goal for the foundation was to be able to feed people and also to help children with educational needs.
Now, people, when you look at them like that and say, "Can I help you?" pride is going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to look at you like, "I don't need your help. I'm fine." Knowing that they got a head of lettuce, nothing else in that basket after going through the whole grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody comes to the grocery store for just a head of lettuce. Nobody comes to the grocery store to get one item and leaves with one item. If people are hungry, quite often the ego, pride, and a sense of, "I don't want your help," kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where God touches your heart
Mm-hmm.
and says to you, if you can, do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able, we must. Because if God has blessed you, has blessed us enough to have more than what we need, to have more than what we can ever use, it is then our spiritual responsibility
Mm-hmm.
to help somebody else. Even if you just give them $1, even if you just buy them a pack of bologna or some bread, they can eat that day. Now, some people say, "Well, I don't have to give people my money. That's my money. I don't need to do that." You're absolutely right. You don't need to give people anything. It's not something that we're asking you to do or you are forced to do. That is not what we're saying. We're saying is that we have a spiritual responsibility placed in our lives by God, by the blessings He's given us, that if we can, we should. And if we have more, it's our responsibility to share some of the more that we have.
One way that you can tithe, and a lot of people like to tithe to churches, but you can also tithe by helping your fellow man by helping them with groceries or food. You see a homeless person on the street, they're asking for food, then you can tithe in that way, and you can count it as part of the blessings that God has given you to share. And those blessings will come back to you tenfold. You never do something uh, out of humility and from the goodness of your heart that God doesn't bless you 10 times over. And I know many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. God puts it on your heart to just help someone or go check on someone. There's a lot of elderly people who are in their homes. Yes, there are some programs that are like Meals on Wheels where they'll go and they'll feed the elderly. But there's also many elderly people who live on their own that people don't check on and they end up starving to death. So if you know of people who are in that situation, I think God will put it on your heart to just go check on someone. Follow your higher mind, follow your instincts, listen to what God is telling your heart, and act upon it. And that's what we're talking about. That's our spiritual responsibility, is to act upon whatever God is telling you that you need to do.
I remember growing up, my mother once asked us, we didn't have anything on the counter. She asked us to go get some biscuits for my grandmother. She knew that my grandmother had made some biscuits, and she thought, well, maybe she'll have a few extra and y'all can have some biscuits for supper. Well, I went to my grandmother because I was the one that had to take the point and go up there. It was about a half a mile away. And I knocked on the door. My grandmother knew why I was there.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Come on in here, boy." That was my name,
Boy.
boy. Didn't have a name. My name was Mitchell, but she said, "Come on in here, boy." And my grandmother, God bless her, gave us some biscuits, and she had made some smothered chicken, and she put the smothered chicken in a pot, and she sat while I was sitting there. She made us some rice,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, "Boy, take this down to your house and tell your mama that we're gonna feed you today."
Mm-hmm.
And that was the most wonderful food because my grandmother did that. She was cussing the whole time. That was my grandmother. She was saying, "Why ain't your mama working? Why does she do this?" Et cetera, et cetera. But she was, same time she was cussing, she was making us food for that night. And so she made enough, she had made biscuits, but she made enough rice and smothered chicken that we ate good that night.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew God put it on her heart to feed her grandchildren in that night. And in many ways, we are all family. We are all people that live in the same world. God's put us here together. And so if you know of a family that is hungry, you know of a family where work is a difficulty, where parents aren't working and making enough money, once in a while, go check on them.
Hmm.
Once in a while, maybe bring them some bread, bring them some chicken or something. And it's easy to go to a place like, Popeyes or, KFC and get them some food and just bring it to them. We were that family that people bought chicken like that too. And I was so thankful for those chicken. They always bought us thighs. I didn't like red beef. But it's something that happened. And we'll be right back with a question. How do we help those in need spiritually?
The question before us is how can we help? How can we help those who are in need, who are hungry?
It's more than just food that they need because something in their condition in life created that condition.
Well, to take care of them physically, the things that you can do is one, if you don't have extra money, and not everyone does, you can volunteer your time. There's many shelters around the cities that you might live near. And in those shelters, they always are looking for volunteers. You can volunteer your time to make sure that people are getting fed. You can also uh, work with churches. A lot of churches have food pantries and different services that they provide for those who are hungry. You can volunteer your time there. You can also make donations to those churches and those facilities that help feed people around your neighborhood and your cities and states.
In the Bible, it talks about the storehouse of heaven. And there are windows in the storehouse of heaven that allows for blessings to come into a person's life. For some people, those windows that lead to their blessings are blocked.
Mhm.
Those windows are not open for whatever reason. It may be because that person has a drug problem. It
Mhm.
may be because that person is sick. It may be because that person has difficulty finding or holding jobs. And God and the angels are not able to reach them. Or maybe that person is just angry with God and the angels for whatever reason.
Mhm.
Because sometimes people get angry and they're not able to process and let that anger go. They take it out on the children, they take it out on themselves. Some people, if you give them a job, they won't work. Some people, if they have an income, will go out and gamble their money away. They'll take God's blessing and they'll spend it on craps or dice or cards, or they'll just drink it away. And God and the angels watch us doing this. So some people need prayer. There are prayers that we have on our website at tybro.com that can help with this. Prayers that release curses on people, prayers that help with things like addiction, prayers that help with physical and emotional problems. Sometimes a person needs prayer as much, if not more, than they need food. Sometimes that storehouse, the windows that lead from heaven, are blocked. And we need to help pray for that person so that those windows can be open. Another thing that we can do is we can meditate on the condition of the neighborhood around us to help create that. Sometimes it's difficult for jobs to reach a neighborhood. Sometimes factories can't open in certain areas because the infrastructure of the area doesn't allow for the blessing of a factory or a plant or a place where people can get work. And we need to pray then so that the condition of that area improves. And then people can get a job, they can work every day, and they can feed their families, they can keep a house, they can improve their condition because we've prayed and we've asked for the blessings of heaven to come into that area and make it so people can live better.
Sometimes our actions block those windows that you were referring to. And those actions can be when you're able to help, did you? And if you go through life and you have the ability to help and you choose not to, well, then those windows start to close on you or to have a barrier between you and the blessings that God want to give you. And so a lot of people get angry because those blessings seem to be blocked and they can't figure out why. Sometimes it's because you had the chance or the choice to help and you chose not to. So we always have to be conscious of and aware of our actions when we are in front of certain situations. How are we responding to what we're seeing and what we're doing? Because many times we block our own blessings, and sometimes those blessings get blocked to the point where you're the hungry person and you're the one that needs help. And if we have more control over our actions, then we'll see life change for us. Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
We have to remember also that the windows that lead from heaven into our lives and the lives of others have openings inside of our soul. The human soul has an opening that receives God's blessings so that we can have jobs, that we can have health, that we can have emotional life and abundance. But remember, there's a God side of the giving, and then there's a human side of the giving that we call receiving. And if your windows are not open, if your windows are dirty, if your windows are not taken care of, then you're not able to receive those blessings that are sitting right there in front of you. You say, well, why isn't God helping you? There's a story about a man who was fishing and his boat fell over. And he was in the water and he was praying for God, and a boat came by and he didn't want that boat because the boat wasn't nice enough. And then a bigger boat came by and he turned that boat away. And somebody threw him a rope and he turned that away. And then an angel flew over him and said, why you keep turning this way? Because he said, I'm waiting on a yacht. Well, God knows that there are people out there that are waiting on a yacht despite how many blessings he's sending them. Their window is not open to the blessings that we are sending them, that God sends them. So we have to be ready to receive in the way that God's going to give to us.
That's a very important lesson because God has always given us blessings. We can choose to accept the blessing and not hold off waiting for the bigger blessing, but acknowledging that we've been blessed and thanking God for where we are, wherever that seems to be in your life.
However it comes up.
However it comes up and however God chooses to give it to you. So we know what the face of hunger looks like. We know that there are many people who are hungry. If you can help, please do so. But know that God is going to bless you if you call the need to help. And hopefully you'll look for the ones who need the most blessings.
Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week.